My, oh my, what a wonderful day. Plenty of sunshine coming my way. Sippity-doo-dah, sippity-day. Okay. All right, so here we are onto the last installment of Keller's South Clear Obed adventure in the middle of Tennessee. And here we are, just walking along the trail, checking out these huge rocks and having a little fun and learning things about life and monies. And we're on the final installment of the section where I tell a personal story. Okay, so I'll do other things at this time too, like maybe talk about my projects that I'm working on, but I've sort of explained my Bitcoin 1776 project in other videos, and I'll have some solo videos devoted to that. So let's go ahead and, oh, here's another little area. Here's another little area here. Okay, so, all right, let's get into it. This is gonna be so fun. I'm so excited. We reached the main area. Heck yeah, heck yeah. I mean, there's nothing different between all the wonderful areas we were at and this wonderful area as well. It's not like, what, another shelf. Just more rock faces to walk beneath. Okay, let's do a little story time, peoples. Let's have some fun. I'm gonna remember something that happened long ago. In 2001, I would have been in my freshman year of college then at UT in Knoxville, a small town of some 300,000 inhabitants, hilly woods, a land made for camping. I was a boisterous youth, for good or ill, happy, free. I remembered throwing parties. I had a system. I would invite a person to a party on the phone, a real phone that hung on a wall. I took notes, names and numbers, using a real pen, and lines of paper. I had a sheet. Computers had been invented then, of course, but rarely used. Microsoft Word was actually just being developed, like it was just a brand new program. But rarely used. Cell phones were non-existent in the days of high school. In those times, street play was just beginning to fade out of fashion. We did tag in the yards, in everyone's yard. We knew the names of all the block kids, the street we played on. We all suffered collectively too. If there was one bad parent, it affected them all, 'cause who knows which kid's house the party of bandits would end up at next. And so it was, very hands-on, with kind, thoughtful parents inviting us over for play, even if rowdily. But in the morning, there'd be bacon and eggs and a smiling mom. And I had thrown a few parties myself, of a bigger fashion. Sometimes the parents would be out of town, and we'd invite 100 kids over. I remember a time where we got chased from the houses into the fields. We'd wander, puking and living. The ditches, the bridges, life in the woods. A wooded land with many a story. Culminating eventually into a party under the power lines with some 300 or more kids and 600 cans of beer. For I couldn't get a keg, and the one I gave beer money to just got beer instead. A mountain of beer. I sat on top like a hen, collecting $5 until I broke even. All were equal, invited, and responsible for one to the other. Lest I forget my system, it was this. I'd call you twice. If you didn't come to a party the second time, I crossed you off. And when I called you, you had to call 2 other people and try to get them to come. It was so hands-on. no internet, but it worked amazingly. Regardless, okay, so I'll talk about my high school days a little bit. High school days were such a fun time. I was, you know, to call myself unpopular would not be correct, but I was not part of the popular cool kids or whatever. But I was like kind of like businessy, and I would help throw all these like house parties. I would find someone to get the beers and collect the $5 to break even and try to make sure that people were responsible and so forth, even though, you know, it's kind of an uphill battle. And it wasn't about like trying to encourage people to do drugs and all this. It's just about trying to have a good time and a memorable time. And it's kind of before the internet and stuff and cell phones and all this permanent recording of everything you do. People were wilder. A lot of kids today don't know that. People used to live like animals, wild animals. I remember in 2001 or 2002 when I was in Spain, and I might have seen like 4 or 5 different people having sex in public in the parks there in Spain. And that just happened all the time. In Spain, in the early 2000s, you could have sex freely and nobody would even think about arresting you or even care. It was just, I mean, and it's kind of thrilling. I go to this park and I see this like huge fat man just humping butt naked on top of this beautiful woman, it seemed like, and it was a little inspiring. He's just in the bushes, maybe 20 feet off the trail. And it's not like I walk these parks every day, just in the very few times I did. And even some people I knew had sex in public there, because that's what you do. But that's a free world, not the world you have today. And when it came to these high school parties, we did things that, not like sex parties or anything like that, but you know, people would be kissing in hot tubs and stuff like that, and things that wouldn't get back to anybody. Like, we used a camcorder. That's how we recorded videos at that time, was a camcorder. And that's still in 2000 and, you know, 1990, people still used camcorders more than phones. And then I have all these camcorder videos of wrestling matches that were never translated into digital medium, so they're pretty much lost forever. But so, and there's only one guy who had a camcorder. But sometimes people would try to like embarrass other people, but that was always so silly. Always so silly and sad. Not necessary. And some people would, you know, try to take advantage of people, but really largely, for the most part, people weren't hurt from our comings and doings. Some of the people we partied with were from the more respected communities, and their parents were logically a little bit more worried than ours. But still, it wasn't by any means mean times. They were at least mildly unsafe, that's true. Uber wasn't a thing, so it was very difficult to get home, and driving intoxicated was pretty normalized, even though of course it's incredibly dangerous and many people died that way. And many people who I've known throughout life have become drug addicted and died in their 30s, and that's just not a good way to go. Life's so much better than all that. And then anyways, but at that time I like drank. I eventually smoked a little weed, and that's about all I did for drugs. I eventually did a little bit of acid and mushrooms, but that was like toward my senior year, I think, was the first time I did acid. But I'll tell you one story of a fella of that time that you can read about in the newspapers of Knoxville, Tennessee, for it's quite interesting. His name would be Warren Smith, who was a multiple continental felon And I went over to his parents' house in Lions Bend, nice neighborhood of Knoxville, to do a statistical math project. And when I got there, he had a gun pointed out a window at the neighbor and said he could shoot the neighbor from here, and asked us if we believed him. And I had not seen a gun up close until then, especially like a fancy gun, more than a pistol. This was a fully automatic rifle. And then he opened his chest of drawers where I would have kept my pants. And he had a collection of automatic rifles. And I was like, holy smokes, man. Stuff's scary. But I was playing cool. And his brother, very cool. His brother was like, yeah, you know, that's my brother. He just didn't really mention it, you know. And then, I swear this is the path, but I'm not gonna go further. I mean, it's pretty late. I might climb this motherfucker. But yeah, so then that fella got arrested for big drug trade, I think of acid. And then he escaped the Knoxville prison, made it over to Brazil, and he had like all these secret stashes of money and weapons and things. And then he got arrested in Brazil further. And then he escaped the Brazil prison and he made it over to France. And this guy was serious. Beautiful sunset. This guy was serious. I don't know what all he did. I know his dad was a wonderful person. I know his brother was a wonderful person. But I know that he was casually aggressive. Wasn't mean to me, but at least casual with the acquisition of multiple firearms and showing everybody he had them, as if there was any need to do this. But that's the thing you could do, because there is no like recording of anything. Everything's merely stories. Nothing of reality survived in a permanent form. Matter of fact, I had the drummer of Foo Fighters in a $500 beat up vehicle one time because he was looking to get weed from me, and I had $10 of crap weed, and he didn't want to pay, and he said, I'll get you backstage passes. And I was like, oh heck yeah. But I was all too shy to collect, unfortunately. And I thought the backstage passes were after the show, but they're before the show. But anyways, these things are all just stories now. No proof, no pictures, just my word of it. And that's fine by me. That's fine by me. Okay, so that's how it was to be in high school in those days. And just like that kind of collective living where you went from house to house. Your parents had no idea where you were because they had no cell phones. And so you were just responsible to get home. And I really don't know if I can keep going in this direction per se. You were just sort of responsible to get home, because it's not like the parents had the phone number at the place you went to, because you're going to 10 different houses, or 3 different houses in a night, and you just have to have a car and hope you could get out there. Okay. Oh my. Okay. But that's kind of what it was like in the late 1990s growing up, early 2000s. Okay, now did I walk through here? I think this is the same area. Let me see here. Okay, here we go. This looks like it could be a path, I suspect. Okay. Oh yeah, this looks safe. Let's go ahead and this is safe. Let's keep going. Oh, nice. I mean, this is all beautiful up here, isn't it? I think I'm just gonna conclude the video here. I am not so sure if this is the exact end, but it kind of looks to be the end. So, boom, boom. Hey, that's me. That's me in the sunset. I'll go ahead and read the rest of this. Okay. Regardless, moving on, in college, I linked up with some group, as you do, and I remember being a relatively shy kid in the scope, or deprived, one might say, but getting along well, very well in some regards. It was quite different from high school and college. I was no more than I appeared. In high school, I was of class. I was visible. In college, around this completely new company, it was all unknown. So I joined this group, a pot group. This group had a leader, an odd, huge fella from up north with lots of money and 10 years more age. He would get us all high and preach sexual liberation to the girls. It was a bit precarious, to be frank, but moving on. He was obsessed with conflict, what not to like in others. Whereas one can be agnostic or deist, but self-identified atheists are generically associated with those who are obsessed with crushing the religious views of others, as opposed to merely living, and he was an atheist. Cancel culture, as it were. But he had good weed. We were into smoking weed, and so we all started smoking massive amounts of weed as a sort of club. A pot club in his large house, and it took up minor jobs in his little company performing typing service or forum copy. And so it goes between the two of us, his ambition to make a statement with the funds to match, and my quirky communal and business sense, that we set the goal on throwing a gigantic party in a field for $30 a ticket on 5 acres of land. The 420 Freedom Festival, we called it. But it was largely a pot festival, and it was a fucking blast. Tents everywhere, about 2,000 people camping for a weekend, a dozen bands, DJs, etc. Spliffs, a spliff rolling contest, shrooms, acid, good vibes, and the rednecks. Can't deny the rednecks, who own the land with their guns, dogs, beer, and justice. Good people. We got along great. We sold the tickets, us students. We threw house party after house party. Fort party, they call them. Fort party for those who go to UT. House party after house party to get people ready, raised funds, etc. It all cost some $40,000 or so between porta potties, field rent, band payments, ticket printing, building the stage and other field prep, making flyers, and so on. We had no idea if we were going to break even, but we did. Maybe made a few thousand on top for our combined labor, but not much. That wasn't the point. What was the point? I really can't say. But to say we did it. We did it. We threw a festival. A huge acid pot-filled festival. My freshman year, the 420 Freedom Festival, we called it, in Sweetwater, Tennessee. And it was glorious. That's all for today. I'll come up with something along a similar lines and format. Well, here now. Yeah, so that festival was freaking awesome. And like, oh, okay, so this little camera thing's not clipped on like it's supposed to be. So that 420 Freedom Festival was just such an adventure. And like, could you imagine being like freshman year? Like, I never had like a car, you know, in high school or whatever. And then all of a sudden I'm throwing this big fucking festival in the middle of the woods. And I mean, it was just insane. So yeah, like, and all of us people had a great time. And I know I can get to the top of this thing and get a great view. All of us people had a good time. Nobody got hurt or anything like that. Lots of drugs, true. Okay, no, this is totally not the path. Okay, more rocks there. More rocks there. I'm not seeing a path. It's so weird. And so, I mean, fucking, And then, so how we came up with this, we just came up with it and we kind of like paid for the festival. He largely came up with it, the older fella. And we paid for the festival by selling these tickets. So if you bought the ticket early, it was 10 bucks. If you bought it like a few months before, it was 15, and then 20. And then if you bought it the day of, it was 30. And so we had a lot of people prepay for tickets. I'm getting lost. We had a lot of people prepay for tickets, which allowed us to pay for the field to rent it, which was just 5,000 bucks to rent the field, I recall, for 5 acres. And then we had to get porta potties, which was kind of like the biggest expense, frankly, aside the field, which was like $1,000 or $2,000. And then we, as a group, bought some wood and built bridges, made the land safe so that people didn't get hurt, built a stage, built all kinds of kind of random stuff. I swear I already went up there, couldn't find out how to get up. So, all right, back we go. And so, I mean, it was just a thing. It was just super cool. And there's a couple there, Katie and Justice, who were just phenomenal people. Katie, I think her last name was Tweel, T-W-E-E-L. But Katie took us to Max Patch and told us stories of the green goddess or green goblin who lived in the lake of the area. And Justice, his real name was Justice. His parents were hippies. That was her boyfriend, and they were just a chill couple. She went on to become a lawyer and successful in her own right, doing whatever she does. Everybody in that group who survived, who like, most of them did reduce their drug use and then go on to have good, successful careers and so forth. Not that that's absolutely necessary, but it's a lot of people who never slow down pass. Just something gets you eventually. So anyways, and we just handed out flyers. That's how you did it. You know, no internet. So the internet was a guy standing on the corner with a stack of flyers and telling people to come from party to party. And then when you showed up at the party, we'd say, buy our tickets to the festival. And like month after month, party after party, we just kept doing this. And of course, nobody believed that we actually had a festival going on. But then when it all came down, I was helping collect the door and all this. And I was like part of the parking attendant people. And we just parked all these like massive cars. And oh man, I was amazed how many people showed up. And I was frankly working a big portion of the time. Again, like, you know, not paid more than like maybe a couple $100 or some shit like that. But it's an experience that, you know, at a very young age, just trying to think about what all can be accomplished. You know, this would have been around the age of 19 or 20, just like what all you can do. If you have like a group of people and like ambitious goals, even if you have very little money, if you find out a good like business strategy where your early customers pay for your development, that's kind of like what Elon did, where your early customers pay for your development and finance you because they just want to make it happen, then you can make really big dreams or big projects come true. And that's what that was. So, I mean, it was just, it's important to think about all, like what all you can do. And it does set your life goals, you know? Like, I'm not saying that I lived up to, I didn't go on to make a bunch of huge accomplishments after that. I went on to live a quite normal life, working the clock. I did start my own business eventually, but that was delayed for, you know, like family type reasons, you know, as you do. And so, but I did start my own business eventually. I started my own little coin eventually, Bitcoin 1776. And then I'll eventually start throwing my own little camp outs, acquire land, and do like revitalization, spiritual, probably some kind of like spiritual thriving parties, you know, like just be good to people. It takes so little in life to take care of things. The artificial stresses and worries people give each other, it's absurd. I did that life. I might have mentioned earlier, I was part of like the Bernie group for a little bit, and you know, whatever, I did it. I'm glad that I believed in something and participated in something and got emotionally charged and invigorated, and I think that's good. I think it was the wrong cause. I think being invigorated about helping people live healthy, fulfilled lives is a more appropriate cause, and things that you are directly responsible for and can seriously control, like your child's future. You know, that's something that you have a lot of control over and influence, and you know, it's your responsibility, no one else's. And then you know, your friends who are hurting, you try, but often they don't want to change. You know, often they want different things, so you can't force it. And then, you know, there's problems that occur, and life is short. How much can you fix and tolerate and deal with? And bad things will happen to you too, and the people you love and care for will get at you. And so if you got unhealthy people in your life who can't change or won't change, then distance, change your environment, get away, because realistically they'll bring you down before you bring them up. And then when you get into the new environments, make good acquaintances, healthy relationships. One characteristic that I always look for is there's some people who judge themselves based on how small the others are around them. I kind of think of these people as king of the mountain type people. These people have the mentality, like generically, they're not liked very well. They think they are, but they're not. These people have the mentality that if they can put others down, then those other people will tolerate them more, and will, like, they'll look better in some respect. But it's never true. It's never true. The cheap thrill of having some sad individual look up to you as you molest and abuse them is not that rewarding, because you're getting the respect and adoration of someone who doesn't respect themselves. So it's not like it's something that can be highly valued, truly. When you have people who are powerful respect you, when you have people that you look up to you as well. And that's why music is so important. In music, a solo artist who only solos has no company. Oftentimes his ability to make a career is diminished because he can't work with others. And likewise in business and projects, if you can't work with others and empower and encourage others, then your accomplishments won't be as magnanimous as they should be. So that's why when you're in business and in relationships, you want someone who wants to see you do incredibly well, and you want to make sure you want to see them do incredibly well too. And instead of having the idea of I can't change or they can't change, it's, are they good to you? You know, like nearly all the time. It's hard to tolerate someone who's only not good to you most of the time, but they're not good to you all the time. They really should be good to you all the time. And the generic rule I have is a 20 for 1. If someone mistreats me or whatever, they owe me 20 good deeds or it's done. Because, like, especially if they do it for no fault, you know, no fault of my own per se. If they're just like, oh, you're stupid because I'm drunk or whatever, then you know, like I need 20 times that effort put towards something positive in order to forgive. Because I'll get over it by clipping them off and getting them out of my life. That's how I'll get over it. And I won't have that experience again. And it's an easy way to live, and it's a wonderful way to live, truly, because there's a lot of good people in the world. But you have to put yourself out there too. You have to let yourself be seen. You have to join the communities of good people. You have to join the habits that the good people have. You can't be a danger to others and expect the wonderful people to flock to you. So be good to people. Be good to people and respect those who are good to you. Okay. That's all for today. I'll come up with something along a similar lines and format and be back at you in a while. Don't take life for granted, for it's going to be short. Be good and make your happiness. We'll talk again. Bye-bye. And if you enjoyed the videos, consider the little Patreon and Bitcoin thing and join Bitcoin 1776. Thank you. Good night.